No break from the controversy surrounding the investigation into possible Russian collusion, as well as the firing of FBI Director James Comey.
So for more on the fast-moving developments, let's go to ABC's Gloria Riviera, who's covering it all in Washington. Gloria, good morning to you.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Paula. That's right. No break in these controversies. And now, very soon, the public will hear from the man at the center of what can only be described as a coming showdown with the White House, James Comey. He is expected to testify sometime after Memorial Day on Capitol Hill.
Former FBI Director James Comey now agreeing to testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee in an open public session. The announcement of his testimony coming just hours after a New York Times report alleging Trump described Comey as a nut job in a May 10th private meeting with the Russian ambassador in the Oval Office. Trump allegedly boasting, "I just fired the head of the FBI." The president also adding, "I faced great pressure because of Russia. That's taken off." Details of the conversation were included in an official White House document, which was read to the New York Times. Press Secretary Sean Spicer saying, by grandstanding and politicizing the investigation into Russia's actions, James Comey created unnecessary pressure on our ability to engage with Russia. Trump has acknowledged that the Russian investigation played a role in Comey's ouster.
The entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion between certainly myself and my campaign.
But the president steadfastly denying he pressured Comey to ease off the investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn.
Did you at any time urge former FBI Director James Comey in any way, shape, or form to close or to back down the investigation into Michael Flynn? And also, as you look back...
No. Next question.
And ABC News has learned a current White House staffer is now part of the probe into whether there was collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians in the 2016 elections.
Officials have declined to name that person. The Washington Post, however, is reporting that it is someone close to the president. Dan, Paula.
Gloria, thank you. For more on all of this, let's bring in conservative commentator and ABC News contributor Tara Setmayer. Tara, good morning.
Good morning.
So we've got two big reports this morning, one from the New York Times on the president allegedly telling the Russians that Comey is a nut job, and one from the Washington Post saying this investigation now reaches directly into the White House. And the common denominator here is that both of these stories are based on leaks. And supporters of the president are saying this is another example of the deep state trying to take down a legitimately elected man. Isn't there some truth to that?
Well, I think that there's some truth to the fact that we should be concerned about the leaks. You know, let's not forget the Obama administration also went after leakers very aggressively. So I think that's a legitimate concern. How far you want to take this? I've seen some rhetoric about this is a coup from within, and I think that's a bit too much. However, it's not a binary choice, which I think is something that the right-wing media is presenting to their viewers and doing a disservice for that. There's balance here. Yes, we need to be concerned about the leaks and we should pursue them. However, that doesn't mean it diminishes the wrongdoing, perhaps, or what's going on, the chaos that's going on in the White House, self-inflicted by the president himself. I think that the idea of just constantly focusing on the leaks doesn't bring balance to the conversation, because there are considerable things happening in the White House with this president that need to be investigated, thus the special counsel, but that also he's not beyond reproach. These are self-inflicted wounds and should be criticized fairly as well.
And we know that James Comey is expected to testify publicly on Capitol Hill shortly after Memorial Day about what happened in those private conversations with the president. Do you expect there to be a bombshell when he's testifying? And also, another part to the question, shouldn't this kind of be seen as a breach of confidentiality? You know, doctor-patient privilege. Isn't this also a privilege and confidential conversation that he's having with the president?
Yes and no. Obviously, we always hear about executive privilege. It's one of those things in the White House that goes along with the job. And you need to have that ability to have privileged conversations to govern.
Sure.
However, when you have something, when the FBI director speaking to the president about an ongoing investigation, that is inappropriate. So James Comey taking copious notes about that, that's something that lawyers do, law enforcement officers in government, they're trained to do that, because you can even have 302s, which is what they use with the FBI. That can be admitted into court as a legal document. So what James Comey did was absolutely appropriate, and the president's interactions with him seemingly are becoming more and more inappropriate. So hearing from James Comey in a setting on Capitol Hill, I don't think we're going to hear any bombshells because of the special prosecutor that's been named. The special counsel tempers everything a little bit. I think James Comey has felt that he's been defamed and that he needs to speak out somewhat. But for those who are waiting for a big bombshell, you're not really going to hear that now. You have an ongoing investigation with a special counsel that is very, very serious.
So Comey may feel constrained by the fact that he could possibly be a witness in that
That's
investigation.
absolutely correct.
So let's talk about, before we let you go, let's talk about this foreign trip that the president is on, his maiden foreign voyage as president. Can he do much to change the subject while overseas?
Absolutely. You know, the president is his own architect of his own demise or of his own success. And whether he's disciplined and stays on message while he's on this foreign trip will determine what happens here. There's a lot at stake. And this is an ambitious trip regardless, whether he had the chaos going on at home or domestically or not. It's an ambitious trip, but there's an opportunity here with Israel and Saudi Arabia, reinforcing our support for NATO, meeting with the G7. There's a real opportunity for the president here with his speech on Islam and terrorism, for him to turn the page. And the primary job of the president is foreign policy, national security, and this is where he should be able to shine. But that remains to be seen because we haven't seen him be very disciplined in the past. If he is this time around, then perhaps he could change the page and compartmentalize, which is what Bill Clinton did when he was under investigation, and still be able to push forward his agenda.
Tara, we know you spent a lot of time in D.C., former comms director in the White House. Thank you for your insight this morning.